Hello everyone, my name is Shonda and welcome to my channel Under the Needle. So tomorrow is National Sew a Jelly Roll Day. And I just found out about this really last year. So last year I wanted to participate. I did not get my whole quilt made last year in one day, but I did get my quilt top done in a day. And this is my quilt top from last year's National Sew a Jelly Roll Day. This is just a jelly roll, no background. The pattern was called Candy Shop, I believe. So this was a pattern that Motor released specifically for National Sew a Jelly Roll Day. And it was really basic. You just sew two strips together and subcut them and then sew those subcuts together. Super easy. I did some very basic straight line quilting on here. I don't know if you can see that, but I basically just quilted about a 1/4 inch away from where the blocks connect. And I didn't do it on both, that was it. Just really basic. You can kind of maybe see better here. Just super basic quilting. You can just see like squares like this. So I did lines down one side, flip the quilt, lines down the other side. That was it. I backed it with this minky because I happened to have a 2-yard cut of some minky, and it fit very well with the dimensions of this quilt top. And I thought that the color, this is like a mint green minky, I thought that went really well with this. I really liked this jelly roll. It's probably, if not the first one I purchased, maybe one of the first jelly rolls I've ever purchased. It was definitely part of my beginning collection. I believe I got this from Missouri Star, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot the name of the fabric line. I don't remember what it was. If anybody really wants to know, you can ask me in the comments. I think I can go back on Missouri Star's website, or probably go back in my emails because I keep them forever, and find out exactly what the name, but it was something like Petal, I can't remember, but it was super florally. It's got the pinks and the purples and the blues and stuff that I like in my quilts. We've got some green. I kept it uncomplicated. I had enough of the minky to fold it over and make it my binding. So that's what I did. I did not put any batting in here because I didn't want it to be too heavy. But I like how this came out. I think it's a good car quilt. It's also a good like couch quilt when you don't need a lot of, when you don't need too much warmth, maybe like in the summer months, if your ceiling fan is a little strong, or if your AC is a little strong and you just want a little something to throw over you, it's great for that. And like I said, great in the car. So I like this little quilt. I did not gift it. A lot of times after I make my quilts, I'll keep them for a while and I'll gift them. But this one I've had for a year and I still have it. I don't see myself gifting it because it would need to be really probably for a child, a girl. So I don't see myself giving it away. So I quilted. I have not used it. Because if I start using it, then I don't feel like I want to give it away, right? So I just wash it. So anytime I make a quilt, once it's completely constructed, whether I'm going to gift it or not, the first thing I do is put that puppy in the washing machine. So if anything's going to happen to it, if it's going to bleed, because I don't pre-wash, so if anything's going to happen, I want it to happen on my watch and not after I give it to someone else. So I always wash it. There's only one time that I did not, and it was a family member that I gave it to. Well, I didn't really give it. I donated it to my family reunion, and then they raffled it off to earn money for the next family reunion. And so it got to stay in the family, and the person that got it is also a maker. Well, his wife is a maker. So one of my uncles won it, and his wife she does crochet. So he does have an idea of the time, effort, energy, and money that goes into creating. So it's in a safe space. So I'm happy. But okay, on to this year. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do this year. trying to figure out what pattern I wanted to use, trying to figure out what jelly roll I wanted to use. And at first I had started with some batiks. I took some batiks out, and I don't know, I changed my mind. Because I didn't really like the background fabric that I had to go with the batiks. I thought, you know, I didn't want the pattern to be too busy, and I didn't, you know, have the appropriate background fabric to go with the batiks. I didn't want to use black again because I just finished a quilt with a black background. And so I was like, oh, so then I moved off of the batiks because, you know, I don't want a lot of background in it, because the more background you have, the more you have to sew. So the idea is to try to get this quilt top done in a day. But at the same time, in a day, I don't want that to mean I have to sew for 16 hours just to get it done. So I wanted something I could realistically get done in 4 or 5 hours. So I was looking at some of the patterns that Moda put out, and some of them just looked like they were going to take a long time. And I just wasn't interested in the patterns that they put out. I thought about, there was a couple, it's not that I wasn't interested in the patterns, I just didn't think that they were simple enough to allow me to mindlessly get it pieced together in a day. So, because it's supposed to be fun and not work. So I was like, well, why don't I do a pattern that I've been wanting to do for a while? And one of the patterns I've been wanting to do for a while is Basket Case by Cluck Cluck Sew. Okay, great looking little pattern, uses a jelly roll. But then I was like looking at all the 2.5 inch squares that you need and the way that it comes together, the construction, and I'm like, a day is going to be that's going to be tough. So no. Then I looked at, and that's a paid pattern. So then I checked out some of the free patterns that Fat Quarter Shop had on their website, and those were looking pretty promising too. And so when I started looking at those, that's kind of when I kind of came off of the jelly roll idea and started looking at some of my prints. So the patterns that I were looking at, the patterns that I looked at were this jelly roll ripples quilt. And then I thought again, okay, I've still got all these little 2.5 squares and it's kind of log cabin-y, so I'm going to have a lot of pressing in between. And I'm like, no, not that. I do like this pattern. I would like to make this pattern, but not for National Sew a Jelly Roll Day. So then I got to looking at this one called the Jelly Roll Twist. And this seemed really promising because you pair the jelly roll strips together, you subcut them into 2 different sizes, and then you just need a 5-inch square. And so the block is, you know, not too bad. That's your completed block. And I'm like, that could really work. This is a contender. And another one that I looked at that was interesting to me was the tilted jelly roll pattern. And this is a new jelly roll pattern that was done by Tiny Orchard Quilts. That's one of the channels that I follow, and I like her content. And so I was like, well, this looks good too. But I think this would look better in a batik. So I was like, well, I can go back to the batiks because I didn't have, because at this point I had looked at my print jelly roll strips and it kind of decided on which one I wanted to use. And I'll go into that process in a little bit. But I thought, okay, if I decide to go with batiks, then I think this will be a great pattern. This is free. She has a whole tutorial on her channel. So great. So and then so these were my two contenders. This jelly roll twist for a print jelly roll, or the tilted jelly roll for batiks. So I decided to go with the print. And some of my contenders were this Kimberbell Basics jelly roll that I had just picked up. But then I ended up deciding against this because there are a lot of like white, you can't even see. So like automatically These 4 I can't use. And then these 4 are also questionable. So now I only have 32 strips that I can potentially use and have enough contrast. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to go with this one. And then another ones I considered was the Shine On Jelly Roll. And so I thought about that as well. Maybe, maybe this will be good. But ultimately, I changed my mind because this is just not one of my favorite fabric lines. I think I got this in a Sew Sampler. So do I like this jelly roll? Yeah, I do. But I don't feel like working with it today, or tomorrow, I should say. And then I remembered, because I had been talking about it the other day, I remembered that I had this Dandy Annie jelly roll from Robin Pickens and how much I liked it. And this is not in my colorway at all. This is not the kind of colorway I normally go with. We've got grays and whites and peaches and oranges and greens and pinks, and it's not normally what I go for. But I loved this fabric line, and I'm like, I think I want to use this. I think I want to use this. I'm going to go with this. And so I thought about, okay, can I use the tilted jelly roll pattern with this jelly roll? And yes, I can. I just don't think that I want to. I don't think that I want to. I didn't know that I would like how that was going to play off of each other. If I was going to go with this jelly roll, then I wanted a little bit of background. I wanted a little bit of separation between some of the colors. So then I started going back to the jelly roll twist, and I'm like, this will be perfect for this jelly roll. First of all, it only uses 34 of the strips. So since this jelly roll is very heavy in the grays, there's a lot of grays, the dark gray, light gray, there's a ton of it, right? So I'm like, okay, since there's no background, I accidentally cut off my camera. That's so annoying. So I talked and talked and talked and then realized that nothing was recorded. Anyhow, so what I was saying was background. I really want to do this quilt with some background. So I had a few to choose from. So these are the 3 that I was looking at. Oops. So the first was like kind of a beigey, like an off-white kind of blender. And the second was a Kona solid. So this was Kona oyster. And the third one that I was looking at was from Andover, and this is called Taupe Textured Solid. And I ended up choosing the Andover one because when I put them together, the Andover one kind of has a peachy yellow kind of undertone. So it's off-white, but it has like a peachiness that I think complements the jelly roll. So that's what I decided to go with for my background. Great. I've got a plan, right? I know what pattern I'm doing. I've got my jelly roll picked out. I've got my background picked out. We're ready to go. And then I was perusing this block magazine here. This is volume 4, episode 5. Because the cover pattern, I bought this, I didn't have a subscription at the time when I bought this. So I bought this as a single standalone magazine. It feels so weird to call it a magazine, right? Because it's like a book. So I got the standalone issue because I liked the cover pattern. The cover pattern is called Sweet Treats, and it uses a layer cake, and it uses the Moda Cake Mix patterns. Moda Cake Mix papers. So I was perusing this because I was thinking about doing that pattern. I think it looks great. And I had like several layer cakes that I thought would look like really good. So I'm like, okay, cool. But right next to it was this pattern. This pattern is called two-step. It uses a jelly roll. And I think it looks kind of interesting. The way the blocks are made, constructed, and laid out makes it look more complicated than it really is. So whereas the quilt from last year, you could tell, like, you can look at it and tell, oh, she sewed some strip sets together, subcut them, and then turned every other one. It's really easy to see. And the same is done here. It just looks way more complicated than what it actually is. And I like quilt patterns like that. So I'm like, huh, I think I might want to switch and do that. So, so I looked up the pattern construction and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is going to go together nice and easy. We're still making strip sets. We're subcutting them and we're adding a little background and sewing it back together. I can handle that. And I think this will work. But the issue came in because it requires 2 extra strips. So you need 42 strips and I only have 40 that comes in my jelly roll. So you can tell I've made up my mind because I just took the paper off the jelly roll. I don't, if a jelly roll has plastic on it, I do not take it off unless I'm ready to sew it. So I think it's, oh, I just love this thing. So I'm like, okay, there's a ton of gray, dark grays, light grays. There's a ton of like pinks and peach. And, you know, there's a fair amount of the greens. So I kind of wanted to go with the yellow because that seemed like the least present. So I went through my stash and pulled out some 2.5-inch strips. And, you know, some of them were just, they were, you know, the wrong, they were like too dark mustardy, like too brownish, too tannish. Some were just too bright. Like these were just too bright, a little too heavy on the orange to me. I did like this here. I thought that this could go well. It was a little darker, but I thought that it would still blend nicely with this kind of mustardy thatched print we have going on here. So I thought that would work as well. And then I remembered that I had some 2-yard cuts that I had picked up from Keepsake Quilting last year. It was like $3 a yard or something like that. And so I have these 2 colors. This you can't tell because the greens do not show very well, especially like some of these mustardy greens, but this is a very yellow green. It reads as yellow or tan, but it's really not. It's kind of like a yellow green. And I think that it will go seamlessly with this jelly roll. So I think that I'm going to cut 2 strips of this and use that as my missing strips. I also found this was one strip in my stash that I thought went pretty well. Either was pretty, that I thought looked good as well. So I don't know, I might use this. I only have 1 strip of it though, so I might use this one and then cut one from here and really kind of mix it up. I'm not sure, but I did have it also in a darker color. I didn't want to use that in my strips, but I thought that it could really make a nice binding. So I think that I'm going to use that for my binding. So I don't think, I know that I will not get this whole thing put together and finished in a day, but I would like to get the quilt top done in a day. So that's what I'm doing for National Sew a Jelly Roll Day. And I'd like to hear what you guys are doing and let me know in the comments what you're going to put together, if you're going to participate. I'm curious to know. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next video.